Today's show is sponsored by the Northern Kentucky Fly Fishers. Our club promotes the sport of fly fishing by holding seminars and educational events, participating in conservation projects, and working closely with other organizations. And we really love to go fishing. If you'd like more information about fly fishing or like to attend one of our free monthly meetings, visit this website or call our phone number.
Hi, this is Don Wilmoth of Northern Kentucky Fly Fishers. You're watching Fishing on the Fly. Today's episode takes place on what has to be my favorite body of water in the state of Kentucky, the Cumberland tailwater below Wolf Creek Dam. The Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife has worked extensively to try to make this a world-class fishery, and I personally think it is a world-class fishery. The show we're going to show you today actually was a study that was done on the trout population, on the movement of them. And it shows you the work that the Department of Fish and Wildlife is going through to make this a world-class trout fishery. For this study, over 60 trout were implanted with sonic transmitters, each transmitter operating on its own frequency so that each individual trout could be monitored for its movement up and down the river, the dissolved oxygen they were living in, and the water temperature. Let's take a look at the team who actually did the study. We have Dave Dreves, a fisheries biologist for Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. We have Jason Russells, a fisheries technician. And we have Jason Fisher, a graduate student from the Eastern Kentucky University.
Hi, I'm Dave Dreves.
All right, we're out on the Cumberland River and we're sampling for trout to implant with transmitters. We're using sonic transmitters, and we use those to track the fish. This is a project that we started in July, and we're running a tracking telemetry project for 18 months from all the way until the fall of 2006. And this is a project that we're going to use to try to determine what happens to the fish during the poor water quality months of the year from the fall. Each year we have a problem with water quality sometimes, and this is what we're going to use to try to determine where the fish are going. Right now we have about 60 fish implanted with transmitters, and we have a few of those transmitters that we recovered either from fish that have died or they've been harvested, or we don't really know how the fish shed the transmitter, but we have 4 of them that we recovered, and we're going to reimplant those transmitters. What we're doing here is we're anesthetizing the fish. We have a anesthetic that we mixed in the water, and we put the fish in there, and it anesthetizes the fish before surgery. That way we can work on them a lot easier, and it's not less stressful on the fish. And what we actually use as an anesthetic is a clove oil extract that's been discovered that works real well to anesthetize fish. And after we knock the fish out, we're going to take a length and a weight, and then we're going to put it in the surgery cradle and implant the transmitter. We're using fish that are 15 to 20 inches. We're implanting both brown trout and rainbow trout. The reason why we're using 15 to 20 inch fish is that's a protected size limit for both fish, since the regulation on tailwater for rainbow trout is 15 to 20 inch protective slot limit, and the regulation for the brown trout is a minimum 20 inch size limit. So theoretically there should be no harvest of these fish because they're in a size that's illegal to harvest. The reason why we're doing the telemetry study is that last year and the year before, during really wet years, we had some real significant water quality problems in the fall. Beginning in July all the way through October, the dissolved oxygen level falls, and then the temperature rises at the same time, and that caused a real stress on the trout. And so we had some really significantly lowered catch rates when we did our electrofishing studies the last couple of years. And then the fishermen were pretty upset because it seemed like there was less fish in the tailwater. So we really need to find out what was happening to the fish, because our shocking studies only encompassed the upper 38 miles of river. Since there is so much river, we have 75 miles of river between here and the state line that we consider trout water. And so what we wanted to do was to find out if the fish had died or if they had actually just moved further downstream out of the areas that we were sampling. So that was what began the idea to do the telemetry study, where we could actually put transmitters in the fish and then see where they go. Kind of fortunate in one sense and unfortunate in another. This year was a dry year, which means we don't have the kind of water quality problems we have during the wet years. So this year, it kind of proved our point that there's a dry year and the water's been low, and then the fishing's been great and the fish seem to have come back. And so we're really kind of curious to see what happens if we have next year, if we have a bad water quality year, if we'll be able to detect those fish moving out of the area to areas further downstream. In addition to the tracking equipment that we have that Jason's doing, we also have purchased what we call these underwater receivers. They're actually receivers that we've deployed on anchors underwater, and they stay in place 24/7. And we're actually using these to detect any movement out of the main study area. Again, because there's so much water, Jason is only tracking from here down to Burkesville. But there's another 40 or 45 miles of water below Burkesville. And so we've actually put 3 of those underwater receivers in 3 different locations. One around the Traces landing at Highway 61 Bridge, one near Cloyd's Ferry or Cloyd's Landing Ramp, and another one at McMillan's Ferry Ramp. And so we have 3 of those spaced out on the river, and those are actually recording any fish that have transmitters that move downstream out of the study area. We use a really specialized technique for this surgery that we kind of have to do an extra step, because the trout, they tend to shed transmitters. And so what we're doing now is if we just implant the transmitter and let it just be loose in the body cavity, they can actually expel that transmitter out their vent. And so what we've done is we're using a special surgical technique where we're looping a piece of suture through the end of the transmitter and then over one of the bones near the gill, and that actually has an internal tether of the transmitter. All right, what we have here is our electrofishing boat that we use for one of our primary methods of sampling. We use this to stun fish, and then we can dip up the fish and do our measurements, weight and length, and do whatever we need to do with the fish. What we have here on the front is the electrodes. This is actually a cable that puts the current into the water. We have this on a boom, and what we have is the boat is one electrode, and then the booms are another electrode, and that completes the circuit. And these electrodes are connected back to a shock box, or basically it's a box that is manufactured to modulate the current just the way we need it to stun fish. And then that's connected to a generator, which generates the power. We say we lower these booms down in the water, and we have a couple men on the front of the boat that do the netting. And we use this right here for safety's sake. You have this pedal that you got to step on this pedal for the current to be activated. And so one of the men in the front has a pedal, and then back at the back there's also a safety switch back there on the shock box itself. So there's a lot of redundant methods to make sure that should anybody fall the boat, then the current is deactivated.
Here we're filling up the knockout tub that we're going to use to anesthetize the fish. And this is our instrument sterilization procedures. The little bilge pump that we use to pump water onto the fish to keep them moist and aerated during the surgery. And here's Jason Fisher, the graduate student who is conducting the telemetry study.
These transmitters will not only give me the location of the fish when I track them, but also will tell the temperature of the water where that fish is located. They have determined that the critical period is August, September, and October, so I track every week during those 3 months. And then thereafter I'll just do once a month and it usually takes 2 days to do one, to get the entire length of the river studied from the dam down to our first SUR, which is a submersible ultrasonic receiver. Those receivers will detect if one of our fish goes past that point. That prevents me from having to unnecessarily check several miles of river. I check the first 38 miles by manual tracking, and then if a fish goes beyond that, the submersible receiver will detect that, and I can then go down and track that area manually. I've been finding most of the fish routinely each week, but there's been about 7 fish that are unaccounted for. So I've been told by the biologist that works at the hatchery that he knows browns often like to come up that little stream that goes up behind the hatchery to spawn in the fall. So I had a couple of technicians tracking that little stretch of stream this morning, hoping to find those fish that I haven't found yet. So hopefully that'll account for the rest of our fish.
All right, here we're doing the electrofishing to collect fish for our surgeries, and what they need to do is bring the fish into the boat, and then we have that target range of 15 to 20 inches. So what they're going to do is measure these fish just to make sure they're in the right length range for our surgeries. Here we are dipping out the fish on shore, getting ready to do a surgery, and we put it in the knockout tub. And this is the tub that has the clove oil in it that will anesthetize the fish.
We're checking this fish for a wire tag. A little 1 millimeter piece of wire that was inserted in the fish when it was stocked helps us determine exactly what year it was stocked. And there's also fin clips, and this fish is a right pelvic clip. You can see that fin is regenerating, and that's the right pelvic fin. We also use that in combination with the marks to determine the year class. Begin the surgery. We're keeping water on the fish, on its gills, and we're also keeping water on its body to keep it cool and to keep it moist. And he's going to use this betadine solution to disinfect this incision area. He's going to make an incision that's just a little off the midline. That way the suture doesn't actually hang right where the transmitter won't hang right where the incision is. It'll kind of hang on the belly, and that's why we make the incision a little off to the midline. This fish is completely anesthetized with that clove oil that we used. What he's going to do now is going to use a forceps and the scalpel to deepen that incision, being careful not to nick any internal organs. What he's using is a special technique to implant that, or to put that suture in that we're going to tether the transmitter to. He's using a needle, a long needle that's protected with that plastic tube, so it doesn't pierce any internal organs. He's actually going to bring the point of that needle through actually inside that gill opening, and we're going to grab that one end and hold that one end of the needle. one end of the suture. It's inside the gill, but it's around this bone right here. And then the other end of the suture is going to go through the nose of the transmitter. Now he's gonna come through again, only this time he's gonna come out just behind that bone that outlines the gill. And so he'll have suture material on either side of that bone. All right, so now he's gonna pull that transmitter in a little bit, and then he's gonna tie off those two pieces of the suture. And now Jason's gonna start suturing up that wound, the incision. He'll put 3 stitches in there. And then we actually use super glue to just put a little bit of a waterproof coating on there. We don't expect the super glue to stay on long, but it might stay on long enough that we don't get any water in the incision.
Okay, that fish is done, and we'll put it in the recovery tank.
Jason's an old pro at it now. That's now, well, we got 62 fish, but we had, I don't know how many surgeries we've done. I mean, we've done 62 surgeries. How many have you done? About 40? Yeah. We actually had a professor from Southern Illinois University that has used this technique on catfish, where we tether it to the clythrum bone, and he came down from SIU and showed us how to do that technique the first day we did it. And so that was a real big help to us. This technique that we're using to tether them to the clythrum is, as far as we know, has never been used on trout. So we very well may be the first people that have tried this method on trout to keep the fish from getting rid of the transmitter.
Don Wilmoth for Northern Kentucky Fly Fishers here again. Since the river levels are based upon releases from Lake Cumberland, the water levels are not always consistent with what we would consider good trout habitat. Over the course of the study, it was determined that the water levels and other variables were adequate for trout. It was also found that the trout in the Cumberland tailwater had a home range on the average of 6 to 7 miles. I'm Don Wilmoth with Northern Kentucky Fly Fishers, and please pass along a tradition: take a kid fishing. Thank you.
Did you know 1 out of 4 Kentuckians hunt or fish? And in the course of a year, over 1 million people get out and enjoy Kentucky's waterways and go fishing.
One of the things that I think Kentucky is privileged to have is the diversity of fisheries we have in this state. You know, we have 20 or 21 major reservoirs, 150 public-owned lakes, probably 75,000 farm ponds. How big is that fish?
And why does Kentucky have some of the best fishing in the nation? Well, it all starts with the fisheries division right here in Kentucky.
There's about 90,000 miles of stream in Kentucky. We got about 330 miles, I think, of trout water in this state. So we got good trout fishing. A regionally renowned trophy brown trout fisheries. Also developing a trophy rainbow trout fishery.
You get all this water to fish, where are you going to stay? Kentucky State Parks has you covered.
Well, Kentucky has one of the best state park systems anywhere in the country. 17 resort parks, 52 total parks spread across the entire state and keep them near where they want to stay. So we do everything we can to make things comfortable and convenient and affordable. And if your family is not entirely into outdoor recreation like fishing, the parks will have something for everybody, whether it be pools or golf courses or hiking trails or fishing guides or anything like that. There are fabulous state park accommodations anywhere you want to stay in the state. You don't have to travel far to find a nice, affordable place to stay in Kentucky.
Why do you think so many major tournaments are held in Kentucky?
We got some of the best black bass fishing in this region of the southeast. Kentucky and Barkley Lake are regionally renowned for their bass populations. Kentucky holds the world record smallmouth bass. We have the 3rd largest walleye that was caught in this country. We have one of the top 10 muskie lakes in the country in terms of catch rate. Crappie are number 2 species in Kentucky. We've got excellent crappie populations in all our reservoirs. We have bluegill. We have rock bass in a lot of our higher gradient streams. They're all good table fare fish, and we got fairly liberal limits on all these fish.
With over 400,000 acres of water and 97,000 miles of streams, plenty of room for everybody.
Our job is to serve. We work for the angling public. We're always looking for new projects that enhance fishing and boating opportunities in this state.